Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Max from the Speedinvest Marketplace and Consumer Investment team, and I hope you're having a great conference so far. I'm on site actually, so I had also the pleasure to see many of the talks live and on stage. But for the rest of the conference, I will be your host of the Metaverse stage. And therefore, it's my big pleasure to introduce you to the first speaker here, which is John Butterfield. John is head of platform at Speedinvest, kind of overseeing 250 portfolio companies, helping them from growing from a seed to a tree, as you can see in his LinkedIn bio. A serial entrepreneur himself and is helping our portfolio to grow in the early stage and has many tips and tricks. And if he's not helping building companies, he's collecting motorbikes. So maybe if we have a little bit of time at the end or running out of content, he can share more about that. But for now, he will maybe introduce himself a little bit further. And I hand over the stage to John and wish you a great talk.
Thank you, Max. Hello, everybody. I'm saying hello and waving. I hope you're all waving back. I can't see you. I wish I could. But a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me, and thank you for being with me today as well. So here is what I'm here to talk about today. Here it is: premature growth. Who here has suffered from premature growth before? I have. And it's not a nice feeling. So the idea, what we're here to talk about today, is all about finding market fit before growing, and actually what growth really means and what it means for you. So Max already told you a little bit about who I am, but just to give you some context, a little bit more context. So I am a serial entrepreneur from the UK, very important. And I'm now the head of platform here at Speedinvest. So I oversee all of the support we do for our portfolio companies and bring in all the knowledge that I've gained from my previous endeavors into the world of being a founder. And you can see there's quite a few things, and that's only a little bit of who I am and what I do. And most importantly, I am a biker. I do love my motorcycles. So to jump straight into it, starting with growth. So as it says here, everybody is addicted to growth. Everybody always talks about hiring a growth person, head of growth, growth lead, growth this, growth that, without really understanding what it means or defining what it means. So one experiment I like to do is whenever I meet somebody and we start talking growth, I always ask them, what does growth mean to you? And the amount of responses I've had has just been phenomenal. It's ranged from personal growth of mental health to getting more cash, to getting more customers, and everything in between. So everybody has a different definition of growth. So I think the first important thing is to actually understand what growth is. And you can see here, there was a phase. I'm glad this term growth ninja isn't used much anymore, but there was a period where everybody was looking for a growth ninja. That came very shortly after everybody was looking for a marketing ninja. But what is growth? So generally what people mean when they talk about growth is one of three things. This is what I've found. They're either talking about growth hacking. And growth hacking is essentially marketing facing, but with the rapid experimentation to try and get as many customers through the door as possible with the least amount of cash. And just hacking your way to getting more customers. And that's some would also say that is an art of manipulation, but it is what it is. Then there is growth in growth terms, and that is all about, it's essentially product facing, and it's about delivering value to the right customer at the right time through the product, and making sure they find the right features or the right settings or the right areas, and bringing that value as quickly to the customer as possible, and focusing on the retention side of it. Then there is the digital marketing side, when people are just actually talking about getting a Facebook or social media manager, but they call them a growth manager, and they really mean digital marketing. So try and think about a little bit about what growth means to you. But when thinking about growth from this way, it's all about driving customers to a product, right? It's all about getting them to getting them into your shop or into your app or into your product. And that's not always a good thing. And this is where premature growth comes into play. There is a time and a space to get customers and to ramp up that customer growth. But you got to think about it a little bit more logically around that. So if we look at why startups fail, this is from CB Insights from last year, I think it is, that did these stats, which changed a little bit from previously, but the main reason stands the same, really. Most companies run out of cash, 38%, 35% of them have no market need. So growth is a big part of this reason, and this premature growth is essentially the top two reasons why a company would fail. Run out of cash, that means you're focusing on your advertising and hiring and building up the company for this rapid growth when you don't need it. It's not there, you're not ready yet. And the second one is then also delivering the product to the wrong market, which happens more often than you think. So really start thinking about why companies fail and making sure you do this right. Because if you grow too soon and you start bringing in thousands of customers and trying to bring everybody to your product or your wherever it is, you could essentially be filling a bucket full of holes. And that is not a good thing. That's when you start wasting money and sending your company down into the realms of running out of cash or finding no market need. So try to fill, make your bucket whole, make sure it's not leaking before you do it. Now, especially when you look at e-commerce, for example, sometimes you might have a very niche product and there might be only a very small amount of customers who you can target in a specific region. And the last thing you want to do is start pushing your product to them too early and too soon when you're not really filling all the value that they need, and you could just lose them, and you only get one chance most of the time to try and sell to somebody. So very, very much try and think about that at the same time. So premature growth. Here's the best example of it, right? This is my definition, right? John wasted $100,000 on hiring a growth hacker when his product wasn't ready yet. Very few people converted and the churn rate was high. John suffered from premature growth. And like I said, I've done that before. I know from experience, and you've really got to think about how to understand who your customers are. And let's jump straight into part two. So part two now is all about making your product fit the right market. So how do you actually do that? Hands up, not that I can see you, hands up who's ever seen this before, right? This is the product market fit triangle, right? So product market fit is a very important thing, and it comes across every single product and every single company out there. Is you've got to make sure whatever it is you're selling, it satisfies the demand of a certain market. And it's the most important thing to crack. Not many people do it right. Most people think they are focusing on the right market when they're not. And it's all about aligning that market to the product. And for example, bringing the chefs to the right hot dog in this triangle. So think about how that comes together and really define who your market is. I mean, a great example here is with one of my previous companies. We made, it was a fintech product, but we launched the product for this automated bookkeeping, thinking that Uber drivers were going to be our number one customer. We launched it to the Uber drivers, started going out and selling to them, and we found they weren't the right market for a number of reasons. First of all, you can't use your telephone while driving. Quite a common, an obvious one, but we didn't think of that at the time. And the second one is that in terms of marketing, and the best form of marketing is word of mouth, very few of them actually told their friends and colleagues. So the marketing side of it was terrible. What we did find out later is that we had a small bit of organic growth within the entertainment sector. So we pivoted our messaging, not the product, just the messaging, to the entertainment sector. So musicians and artists and actors. And we focused our product on them and the messaging and the value. And our organic growth just went through the roof because we found which market our products fit best with. And then we looked at the second group. And ironically, by the first group, what was interesting for them, the value was that it could save them money. And then we looked at the second group, and the second group was people in the construction industry, completely different to entertainers. So we looked at what their value was, and their value was not about saving money. They have lots of money. It was all about saving time. So then we changed the product for them to then say, this will save you time. And then for entertainers, this will save you cash. Launched the product for them and kind of took them down a different path, a different user journey. And for them, growth through the roof, organic growth through the roof. So it's all about aligning the product and the right messaging to the market. So what is product market fit? How do you break it down? So this is from Andreessen Horowitz. And they say, I'm not going to read all this because you can read it yourself, but they always say you can feel when product market fit is happening. And that's when people can't get enough of your product. They can't buy enough. They can't tell their friends enough. And the organic growth is just going crazy. And everybody wants to be your friend. That's when you know product market fit is happening. And you can feel when it's not happening. And that's when you're essentially having to pay for customers and pay to keep them around, or people just aren't interested and they're not talking about you. So this is the description from Andreessen Horowitz, and it's the best description I've ever seen, and I always use this. So if you've got your phones with you, take a quick little screenshot, a little photo of this, because it's worth remembering. So what is not product market fit? And this is an interesting one. People always say because they've got revenue or they've got customers, they have product market fit. Bullshit. That doesn't mean you've got product market fit. That just means you're good at marketing and you may be good at selling. Doesn't mean you've got market fit. Doesn't mean your product is aligned with your market. So if we're looking back at this triangle, the little orange question mark, that's where the product market fit is. And the worst thing here that we've seen a lot is paying $20 for a $10 user is just not very good. That's not market fit. And it's more and more important now with the way the economy is turning and the things that are happening in the world around us. We're not now focusing more on the kind of the growth side of it, but more on making a company that has a very good LTV and CAC ratio, which then takes us to the signs of PMF. Signs you have it. And again, they see the value, they can't get enough, and they're telling their friends, like we said earlier, and they get the same experience, the same value goes to more than one person. So again, like I said, low CAC, high LTV, and something here called a K factor. A K factor is basically the trend of telling people about your product. And the best way to explain this is take our minds back, not that you probably want to, but the times of COVID when it was spreading and it was all over the news. We had something called the R number, which was often being reported, which was essentially how many people got COVID. So for every one person, how many people got COVID afterwards? Same thing applies here in marketing and for your product. It's called the K factor. So for every customer you have, how many invites do they send to their friends or share with their friends, and how many of those convert? And this is a great way to measure the virality of your products and your company. So when finding the product market fit and you're using this triangle again and expanding on that, what can you actually do? So the product side of it is essentially built up of three different things: the UX, the user experience, the features. So what does your product have and how does it operate? And the value proposition. Are you matching the value proposition to the right market? So if you look at the market, you look at the underserved needs and the target customer. Both of these are incredibly important, and you should constantly look to understand what are the needs, who are the customers, and does your UX, feature set, and value proposition align with them at the same time? So like I said, most startups believe they have product market fit. And it's heartbreaking to see how many people say they have product market fit, and then you sit down. More often than not, it is just bloated users and making money, which is making money is a good thing, obviously. But you want to make sure that you've got a high value customers, and it's not just, you're not going to exhaust your user base very quickly with just one-time purchases that have a very slow cart value, for example. So really try to think about it. And if you really believe you've got market fit, do me a favor, go and talk to all the people you know, ask them and find out from them, show them your data, and make sure you are fully convinced that you have market fit before you focus on growth. Now, what you can also do is anchor it around a single metric. So best thing to do here, I'm not going to talk you through it because we have limited time. And the best thing you can do is Google it. Google PMF survey, the product market fit survey. This is a wonderful way to kind of anchor product market fit around a single metric. So this was done by looking at thousands of different companies, and they found that the range is within 40%. If less than 40%, you do not have product market fit. So, and this is a simple survey. All you have to do is ask your customers, how would you feel if you no longer was able to use whatever it is or buy whatever it is? Would you be very disappointed, somewhat, not disappointed, or I no longer use it? And if you've, like I said, if you get that 40% of people are very disappointed, then that's in the right area of having product market fit. That means you're on the right path. And yeah, just a simple survey, it helps you. And you can take it a little step further and ask extended questions for customers. So what type of people do they think would most benefit from what it is you're selling? What is the main benefit they receive? And how can they improve the product? So there's a great blog article on this. Just Google it, PMF survey, Superhuman. So the mail app Superhuman have broken this down well. And it's really worth digging into and seeing how they break down the customer persona and all the different user groups. And what they look for is basically all those who are somewhat disappointed and on the fence. They try to push them over to be very disappointed. So this segmentation and this data collection and understanding your customer is horribly important, and I cannot stress that enough. One of the biggest things I learned as a founder is getting event data and customer data and user data as much as possible very early on, essentially building it into the initial prototypes. I've never found that to be a waste at all. So part 3. Value. This is another one that's worth looking into, which is the value proposition canvas. And my emojis have gone crazy here. But you may have come across the one-page business model canvas. This is looking into that a little bit and focusing on 2 certain areas, the value and the customers. So again, you can Google this, the value proposition canvas, and there is lots of documents and information and guides and even templates of how to do this yourself. And this is something that I recommend everybody does for every single type of market that they wish to enter, and to try and understand the customers that they want to focus on. And one common trait here is that if you start repeating yourself, then you know you're on the right path. If you're not repeating yourself, then something's not aligned. So it's all about finding that alignment. If you remember from the product market fit triangle, like market and product, getting them together. So you need to try and bring those together as much as possible. And once you do, you start repeating yourself. So this value map and the customer profile is essentially matching the 2 together. So, and what you can do then is create a value statement, which helps you guide your product as much as you can. So looking into this, let's take a little look at Spotify, and we'll run through that and just understand what each of these sections means. So always, strange thing, better to start from the right to the left, not left to right. So start with customer jobs. So starting with customer jobs, because this is the other thing as well. Once you start building your product and building your company, you are not the customer anymore. You found the problem, you know what you want to achieve, but you can't think of yourself as a customer. You need to start thinking from the customer's perspective and start speaking to people. Talk to as many potential customers as possible. So start with the customer jobs and start thinking about what is the job the customer wants to get done, and what are the emotions that come with that. What is it they're trying to achieve? So if we look at Spotify as an example, Spotify will look very early on in the Spotify days. It's essentially to listen to music without having to buy or download each song or album. back when Spotify was just starting out, everybody was using iTunes or downloading illegally. And again, you had to either maybe download illegally, which is not a good thing, or if you're buying songs from iTunes, you're paying 99 cents per song. And if you're buying albums, that's $10. So it adds up, and before you know it, you've spent thousands, and all you've got is the Britney Spears catalog. So Spotify looked at how can they do that? That's what the customer wants to get done. They want to create they want curated playlists without having to create their own all the time. They want to be able to share songs with their friends. If you're downloading music illegally, you can't easily send it over MySpace or Facebook. It's very hard. And they also want to be able to see what their friends and family and celebrities are listening to and create this community around the music. Then we look at the gains part of it, the customer gains. So what would make the customer happy? What would make their jobs to be done easier? And what does the customer essentially dream about? What is it that drives them with this? So again, then looking at Spotify, again, repeating yourself, which is a good thing, legally download and stream music, right? Have a huge library of content. So how can they make iTunes, a subscription and not have to pay for it? And offer multiple payment options. So they, to be able to have a free version with ads, to a family version where you can have 5 accounts, and then being able to pay with all the different cards and PayPal and everything like that as well. And they also want to be able to share songs with friends. You can even look at, bands are posting their Spotify iframes on their website and things like that. It's insane. And again, seeing what people are doing. So social media connectivity, connecting it to Facebook and Twitter, yada, yada, yada. So that is what they would like to do. Be able to get music for free, or not free, but legally download and not have to buy it every time, and share it with their friends and so on. And then we look at the pain. So what is it that's pissing them off? Why can't they do that now? What's troubling and annoying them? What's preventing them to getting that jobs to be done? And what's not letting them get a good night's sleep? So the fact that you can't legally send MP3s to friends online, always a problem. We used to get USB drives or make mixtapes and send them to your friends and things like that. So how can you legally send just a playlist and create a playlist and share it with your friends and certain songs? The other pain, as we mentioned earlier, buying, if you're buying every song individually or every album, it gets very expensive. So you end up listening to just a very select group of songs or albums. And the legal music sites have a very limited catalog. So back in the day, SoundCloud, MySpace, it was very much kind of the indie musicians or the ones who were just trying to get their mark on the industry. It's very hard to keep up with them as well. So we've looked now at the customer profile. So we're starting to understand a little bit what it is they're trying to achieve, or what it is they're wanting to do, what the problems are, and how can we do that. And this is before you think of the product and before you think of the solution. That should be the last thing you think of. If you start thinking about what you're going to sell before thinking of the market, that's where you can make some very big mistakes. So the next thing now to look at is the pain relievers. So what can you do, right? How can you make it better? So we start thinking, how can you relieve the pain? What problems can you eradicate? How do you fix the underperforming solutions that are currently out there and eliminate any risks and fears and remove any barriers in the way? So again, with Spotify, what Spotify loves at doing, what can they do? So they can create a huge library of content with new releases. That is important. And this helps you then also think about what are the features, what is the setup? Is it bulk buying? Is it creating location-based products or groups and so on? It could be, right? So huge library of content with new releases. So every time Britney Spears does release a new song or a new album, you don't have to buy it again. It just gets automatically added and you can stream it straight away. They can offer that multiple payment options, right? So again, like I mentioned earlier, gave the example, from a free version with ads to the family package and everything in between, even student packages and so on. And Spotify have built social media into it. started with this within its DNA, right? They encourage sharing. They create these, you can put the JavaScript on your website and create and show your own playlist or your own albums, or you go to Coldplay.com and you can see all the Coldplay songs to stream. I don't know if that's true. I've never ever gone on Coldplay's website, but I assume they're the type of people who would do that. And what they did as well is they kind of copied the user experience that was of iTunes. So the learning curve for customers was very low. It was very easy. They could just come in and use it. And it's like, oh, this is familiar. And I only have to pay £10 or $10 or whatever a month. It's pretty good. So they kept the experience very similar, but just made it on this subscription basis. Then we look at the gain creators. So how can you help them achieve their gains, outperform, and also get better adoption? And again, repeating yourself means you're on the right path. So create a pricing structure to meet different needs, compatibility across different platforms. So whether you're on desktop, mobile, web, you can basically get access to it anywhere. You can easily send songs to friends for free, and killing the CD, essentially. Nobody buys CDRs anymore for music. And again, stream songs instantly without paying or downloading. So you can see this repetition, although it seems quite basic and obvious. It means that you're on the right path. And it's a very important thing to do. So I recommend it for everybody. But if you're noticing that it's not the same, and you can suddenly start thinking about all these different gain creators, and you think if you've already got a product or something into the market and you're listing gain creators that don't match up with the points on the customer profile, if they don't match up, then maybe you're creating a bloated product, right? Maybe you've got too many things that are just unnecessary, which also happens. And a perfect example of that was Bourbon. Bourbon was a video photo product, where you could share it's essentially a photo sharing community with filters, and they had all these features, and it was amazing. They had a few 100,000 users on their app, and what they found was that most people were essentially doing the same thing, and that was just adding filters to the product. So they scrapped all of the features, came back with one product with one feature, which was adding the effects to the photos, and they renamed it as Instagram. And a year later, they sold it for $1 billion. So it goes to show that if you start listing too many pain relievers and too many gain creators that don't match up to the customer setup, then maybe you're doing too many things. Or maybe you might find there's problems that the customers are having that you haven't yet thought of, and maybe that's a feature set you should look into. So it goes both ways. But the repetition means you've got it connected. But don't fill out the customer profile while thinking of you. It's not about you. It's about the customer. Start thinking about what it is they're doing, and even talk to the customers to learn about them and find out what's happening from that side, to make sure you are filling out the profile correctly as well. Then finally, once you've got all this and you feel happy with it, then you can look at the last point, which is the products and services. And most of us, when we're a entrepreneur, we think about the products and services, and it's very easy to get wrapped up into the world of like, oh, let's build this, this, and this. This is going to be amazing. I love the idea of this. This is very cool. No, you got to take a step back every now and then and just really think, are we building or are we creating or selling the right thing to the right people? So start thinking again about the problem and what are the products and services you can offer so they can get that job done, whatever it may be. So Spotify, again, is the example, legal and free option for high quality music streaming, multiple payment options for more features and no ads, and community built content. And it comes together nicely, and it should always end with the product, not start with the product. It should start with your customer and what it is they want. So if we look at this all together now, and like I said, it creates this wonderful kind of value statement that you can look at. So when you start looking at all the points you do, Spotify is essentially a community-driven music platform. And the community thing is what's helped it to scale. It's what's helped people understand or share the content and essentially grow the product over the last 15 years or however long it's been out for. It's been a while now, huh? So when it comes to perfecting market fit, two things to think about: product and market. Questions I always ask: if somebody tells me they've got product market fit, prove it. Remember, ask your friends, ask your peers, try and prove it. Data and analytics are your best friend. Always look to the data side of it, because you also might see trends are changing. And one thing with market fit is that it doesn't stay, right? If it's not working, if the product doesn't quite fit, don't just keep changing and creating new products all the time. Make small little pivots. Again, it's not about building more features or building more products or creating more. It sometimes can be just small little pivots. And design for your market, not for you, right? As soon as you start building, you are not the customer, and you suddenly get carried away and can create things that are not needed. And then from the market side, you've got to really understand who your target audience is, who your market is, and who and why they would even come to you. And get out of the office and into the field. Talk to your customers, talk to potential customers. Who do you want to sell to eventually? Go and find them, hunt them down and talk to them. It's the best thing you can do, and founders do not do it enough. And ask your users, collect that NPS, collect that product market fit survey, and start thinking about that as well. Once you've achieved this and you've got that kind of definition of product market fit, that's the point when you can then start thinking about growing, right? So you've defined product market fit, you've understood it, you know what it is for you, and you can start building it. Don't try and rush it. And product market fit is also an iterative process. So don't be naive to think that once you've found a market that likes your products and satisfies that market, that one, it will stay, and two, that you won't exhaust that market. Start thinking about then growing to new markets, and then thinking about your go-to-market strategy from one to the next to the next. Like I mentioned earlier with the example of my previous company, where we launched to Uber drivers, realized that wasn't right. So we went to the entertainment sector, completely different market, but it took off, saturated that market, and then went to the construction side of it and focused on that market. So don't try and please everybody at once. Focus on smaller little subgroups, find product market fit, grow next market or subgroup, focus on them, making them happy, grow it, and so on and so on and so on. It's this kind of hyper focus that can really help you grow and create a sustainable business as well. And when I mentioned about losing product market fit, I think we are all somewhat familiar with it now because COVID really took us all for a little bit of a ride so far. So with COVID, for example, Airbnb is a product that we could say had product market fit. Ironically, they launched about 4 times before they got it right because the market did not respond well to them. And so yeah, they launched 4 or 5 times before the market actually appreciated them and they was able to grow. They got product market fit. And then suddenly the market changes, and a lot of things can change market, right? It can be technology, competitors, the landscape, like COVID. And suddenly nobody was traveling anymore, and Airbnb suddenly wasn't getting used in their market, gone, right? So they could either sit there and cry in their mansions, or they could think about how could they actually make small pivots. And it doesn't have to necessarily be to the product, it can be just to the messaging and the way you position the company. And they looked at what the market was doing, and it's like, okay, families are no longer taking vacations, but people are now working from home and working remotely, and people don't want to work in San Francisco anymore. They want to go and work in middle of nowhere, Utah. So let's change our messaging and our value proposition to work remotely. And they did this during the lockdown and during the pandemic. They changed the messaging to working remotely and focusing on the business side of it. And they managed to find a new market in there and maintain some level of dignity and customers and continue some revenue from there. Obviously not to the same scale, but they were able to keep it afloat from that. So now things are opening and going back again. But what my point here is that the market shift. So once you have product market fit, don't assume you're on the right path, and it's going to stay. So once you've got this product market fit, now it's time to grow. Now you can think about the growth side of it. And again, really understanding what growth means to you, because especially if you're building a team out, everybody can have a different interpretation of what growth is. It can be revenue. Some people might be talking about revenue. Some people might be talking about personal growth. Some people might be talking about users. But now, when it comes to growth in the traditional sense that I take growth as, I actually believe growth is the product side of it, and essentially the bridge between product, marketing, and data. And this is the way that I always look at it. So first of all, define what your North Star metric is and focus on that. So you can do your North Star metric earlier on and start looking at the retention side of it, which is point 2, drive retention side of it. But if you're focusing on your North Star metric and the retention, but you're actually targeting then the wrong market, you can send yourself on the wrong path and go in a completely different direction and be part of the crunch-based metrics of running out of cash. So define your North Star metric. What is the main value point you can get out of that? If you've not heard of a North Star metric before, go and Google it, and there's lots of things on there. Drive retention before acquisition. Focus on the user journey within your product, and focus on that. Because it's pointless trying to focus on acquisition and paying for new customers and getting them through the door if they're not going to convert. It's a lot easier to convert, focus on the conversions as opposed to getting new customers. Define your magic moment. The magic moment is essentially the point when people find the value and they're like, holy shit, this is amazing. I want this. I want to buy it. I want to use it. I want to own it. So define your magic moment and show it. And try and bring that as close to the entry point as possible. So as soon as a customer or potential customer comes to your site, your page, your product, whatever it may be, try and bring that magic moment in. Then focus on the small multiple wins. The best growth teams I've worked with are the ones who run hundreds of small little growth experiments a year, not 5 or 6. And focus on your worst customers, not your best. Right? As I mentioned earlier as well, showing in the product market fit survey, the ones who run the fence, try and bring them over. Try and get those over and continue that. Always do that. But most importantly, growth is about knowing your data. Understand what is happening within your product. How are customers or leads actually reacting? You know, are they dropping out at a certain point? Are they filling their cart and then losing it? What could it be? And really understand the user journey. Map that out and follow that user journey and speak to your customers. And also see how it changes over time. But here, one important thing is that growth is, more often than not, it's all about reducing churn, not acquiring new customers. It's easier, like I said, to increase maybe the cart value as opposed to getting a whole new customer. If somebody's already committed, upselling and cross-selling some new products to them can be a lot easier than trying to get a whole new customer from the start. And if you bring the value and drive the value for them, and then they're going to tell their friends. So finally, tell your customer story with data, like I said. And what I like to say here is that data without a story is like an orchestra without sheet music. It's a load of fucking noise. So map out your user journey. Don't suffer from analysis paralysis. Create that user journey and map each user and their segments to the journey to actually see what is happening and follow that to the T. All right. Thank you very much. That was a lot of information for 40 minutes. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can scan the QR code and send me a message. Happy to have a conversation with any of you. Just let me know. And we've got like 1 minute left. So, Max, is there any questions from anybody in the audience?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, John, for this insightful talk. I think I also learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience as well. At the moment, I don't see any questions for now in the chat. But as you just showcased basically where they can reach you and reach out on LinkedIn to you, I'm sure there will be a lot of follow-ups. Maybe also for the audience to recap, many of our earlier founders can tell you the story about how John and the platform team helped them. So in case you want to have hands-on support from the first day, I think John is the best person to reach out to. And I wanted to say thank you again, John. This was really insightful. And I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did.